make sure you get a copy of this book before you leave. I welcome all of you. Can I call for a bigger round of applause for the former President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, speaking there through the former President of the Senate, Senator Anyim Pius Anyim, GCON. We appreciate your comments. But Your Excellency, the Vice President, our special guest of honor, who else could tell the story much more than the man who was at the forefront and a principal actor, and of course, one who understands the dynamics and of course what played out. Your Excellency, today our promises to be very intellectually engaging and historically enriching. And I must say that we are being joined here by legal luminaries, statesmen, media professionals, and keen citizens of conscience, as well as royal fathers. And talking about royal fathers, Your Excellency, kindly permit me to recognize the presence of His Royal Highness, the Emir of Lafia and Nasarawa State Council of Chiefs, Honorable Justice C.D. Bagay Mohammed I, GSC, retired CFR. There's a one round of applause for him. It is at this point in time, as we move on with the program of events, that I dare say that the man who's been saddled with the responsibility of giving us a keynote at this auspicious and momentous occasion is a very highly cerebral legal mind. In order not to waste too much of our time talking about him, I'd like you to please join me in welcoming with a very resounding applause Paul Erokoro, S.A.N., Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Can we please welcome him to the podium as he makes his way here? It's taking quite a little while to get here because of the number of persons we have even standing on the walkway. Please pave way for him to be able to get here. I recognize the presence former Inspector General of Police, MD Abubakar, and we also want to appreciate the presence of the former Principal Secretary to the former President. We have Alhaji Hassan Tukur here with us. Thank you very much for joining us. And J.D. Agba, PhD, Godi Agba, PhD, former Minister, we welcome you, sir. Thank you very much. Please can we pave way for Paul Erokoro to make his way here? And I'd like that we please give him one more round of applause as he makes it.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, Your Excellencies, Governors, Senate Presidents, many of whom have been my clients in the past, and I hope there will be again. I don't know whether everybody has written a book, but I can tell you it's a very hard thing to do. I wrote one at some point in my life, and because of the reaction of the publishers, I decided that there were too many books in the world anyway, and I would never write one again. They said, your book is both good and original, but the parts that are good are not original, and the parts that are original are not good. Since then, I realized that it's a very, very hard task. So, Bello, my good friend, I know you've achieved so much in the practice of the law, but when I read your first book, I was really, really, really impressed. And I wish you had written mine for me at that time. Now, Chief Kanu Agabi was supposed to have been standing on this podium. Unfortunately, we have an occupational hazard as lawyers. If the court is sitting, you can't leave, no matter how important that assignment is. And Mr. Agabi got caught up in court. And I was surprised to hear my name mentioned. But as Mr. Agabi's able disciple, let me just say that even though I have not read the book, I read excerpts of it. There's something called the post office scandal in the UK, described by that government as one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in the history of that great country. I can say quite confidently that the accusations against Mr. Bello Adoke, the trauma that he went through as the federal government of Nigeria vilified him all over the world, is one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in this country. I know that because I was one of Mr. Bello Adoke's lawyers. You would think, from all that was said, that the government would present a compelling case in court. But it was such an anticlimax. And I recall the former governor, Mr. Bode George, who actually went to jail, served 2 years, I think. And when the matter got to the Supreme Court said, this man should never have been charged to court. And we see a lot of this going on in our country. Actual criminals are not being prosecuted, unfortunately. But the innocent get dragged through, and if you read the papers, for instance, you will think that every judge in Nigeria is a crook. You would think that every politician is a crook. Maybe some are, but they generalize it so much, and then there is this business of picking and choosing and descending on those that do not meet the favor of the particular regime in office. It is a very, very sad thing. Now, this transaction, as you will see detailed in the book, started a long time ago during the regime of General Sani Abacha. And that OPL was given out. President Obasanjo cancelled that lease and restored it. Shell and the others went to court. We were at ICSID, we're in danger of losing $2 billion, and you know that Nigeria usually loses its cases. And so the government decided that, look, we better settle this matter. The settlement started during General Obasanjo's time, was anchored during President Jonathan's time. And the reasoning was very simple. This is a very, very, very promising mining lease. We can make a lot of money. This block is very, very rich. Why are we in court suffering? And you should read the judgment of the English court that heaped praises on Mr. Bello Adoke for going out of his way as Attorney General to save his country so much embarrassment and huge costs. But surprisingly, this transaction that was anchored, JP Morgan and Co., and some of the best names in the world praised it, the Nigerian government. On the one hand, issuing statements, you will see all this in the book. The Attorney General of the Federation at that time said, we support this settlement, it's in the national interest. Nevertheless, we will accuse Mr. Adoke of corruption. Quite frankly, it's a commentary on the state of our nation that people who do things like this are not called to justice, are not called to account in any way. And so, I don't know what's happening with that lease now. I just had excerpts of the book, but I'm looking forward to reading the whole book. And I urge everybody to read it, and I'm sure that you will find lessons there for our country and for the rest of the world that will be worth learning. Thank you very, very much as I invite you all to read this book. Next.
He came to this podium with only his jacket, and he delivered a keynote. Let's put our hands together for him, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our book reviewer is a man of quality. He autographs any of his work with excellence. Journalist, TV presenter, newspaper columnist. He is a member of the Nigeria Academy of Letters and a lawyer. My good friend, please welcome here Dr. Reuben Abati.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Your Excellency, former President of Nigeria, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, ably represented here, all Your Excellencies here present, Your Royal Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Well, it gives me great pleasure to be asked to review this book. I'm probably, well, the only person in this hall who has read this book maybe twice. So I consider myself privileged indeed to have them be asked to come and do this review. Well, copies are on sale. So if you disagree with me, just buy one copy. Okay, here we go. OPL 245 is probably the most well-known oil block to be awarded by the Nigerian government, more for the legal disputes and international arbitrations with regard to its acquisition and ownership involving the federal government of Nigeria, Shell and Malabu Oil, as well as a large cast of actors across courts in Nigeria, the United States, the United Kingdom, and Italy. Whereas OPL 245, a versatile deep-water offshore asset of the Niger Delta, was one of other similar licenses awarded to encourage indigenous participation in Nigeria's oil and gas sector. It is caught in a complex web of scandals, allegations of corruption, bribery, and so much melodrama in and out of the courtrooms. In an earlier book titled Burden of Service, Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN, had written, among other things, on this controversial oil prospecting license, or what is also known as Malabu Gate. In the present book, a sequel to his first book, he focuses on the OPL 245 in an extensive and comprehensive account of the allegations about his role, the burden that he has had to endure in terms of what he calls clinical persecution, or the lies and more lies, I'm quoting him, that were told against him and his eventual vindication. Adoke's OPL 245 is, by his own admission, therapeutic, a book that needed to be written to set the record straight for posterity and to clear his name through a documentation of facts and circumstances. Adoke was Nigeria's Attorney General and Minister of Justice, April 2010 to June 2015. At the time, the OPL 245 saga began in 2003. He was not yet in government, nor was he either when the block was revoked by the Obasanjo government on July 2nd, 2001, or when a settlement agreement was signed in 2006. Then when he was appointed Attorney General and Minister of Justice in 2010, OPL 245 became one of the matters he inherited as Attorney General. It was during this period that the Jonathan administration confirmed the award of OPL 245 to Malabu. This author is very clear in stating that the politicization of OPL 245 was caused by former President Olusegun Obasanjo, and I quote, who woke up one morning and set OPL 245 on fire. He revoked the block without giving any reasons, now resulting in a series of litigations involving the NNPC, Malibu, and Shell, which stalled the development of the asset. One of Adoke's first assignments as Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice was to help unpack the logjam, and he had advised that the 2006 settlement agreement was binding on the federal government of Nigeria. In the resolution agreement that was arrived at in April 2011, Shell and Nigeria Ajib Exploration Limited will pay $1.3 billion into an escrow account with JP Morgan in London, while Malibu will receive $1.09 billion as compensation as full and final settlement. As the chief law officer of the Federation, Adoke was convinced that he had given the government proper advice in the circumstances. This book is about the twists and turns that he will have to deal with later. The exact nature of the burden of service that he has spoken about is laid bare in this book. On May 29, 2015, after the Jonathan administration had left office and the Muhammadu Buhari administration had been sworn in, Adoke said he received messages from those in the know that he was going to be hounded by the new government. He was in fact advised to leave town. He heeded the advice, but more specifically to proceed for further studies at the University of Leiden in the Netherlands. His travails soon began. He was accused of taking a bribe of 300 million naira, $2.2 million at the time, from the OPL 245 agreement, or another 801 million, then cases of money laundering and abuse of office. Adoke insists on his innocence. Nonetheless, he remained in exile from May 29, 2015 to December 19, 2019. In between, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission filed cases against him in court. His name was mentioned in legal disputes in Italy, the US, and the UK. His apartment was raided in the Netherlands. His houses were searched in Nigeria. A warrant of arrest was issued against him internationally, leading to his arrest and detention for 35 days by Interpol in Dubai, UAE. And upon his return to Nigeria, he spent another 55 days in EFCC detention. He was even interrogated over the P&ID matter, and it was not until April 2024 that he was fully cleared of all allegations of wrongdoing in Nigerian courts, resulting in his vindication. Thus, he has had to suffer for about 8 years with threats to his life and well-being. As he puts it, now I quote him, he says, when President Muhammadu Buhari came to power in 2015, he chose to come after me. Agreed that he misruled Nigeria for 8 years, but he at least got distinction in one thing, destroying my name. He turned me to the poster boy of a scandal that never was. I was arrested and detained in the UAE for 35 days. I was arrested and detained for another 55 days in Nigeria by the EFCC. Anywhere my name is mentioned today, it is Malibu and OPL 245 that usually come to mind, thanks to Buhari, who harbored a collection of bitter feelings against me for reasons best known to him, end of quote. In this book, Adoke fights back, relying on his vindication at every turn by the courts. The book is divided into 5 parts and 26 chapters. It's a cold-blooded, no-holds-barred response to everyone whom he considers as having played an unkind role in the course of his travails. This may well end up as a very controversial book, as the affected persons and institutions may seek to write their own stories, for it will not be assumed that everyone in this cast of heroes and villains will simply read the book and accept guilt. A few examples may perhaps convey an impression of this book's flavor. In chapter 5, Adoke says, former President Olusegun Obasanjo is clever by half. I'm quoting him, I'm not the one saying so. And that he owes Nigerians an apology for blatantly lying. Another quote. He says, and I quote again, Obasanjo failed the ultimate leadership test in the matter of OPL 245. He adds that, and I quote, it was disingenuous of Obasanjo to have tried to distort historical facts. On President Buhari, he observes that he, Buhari, was driven by vengeance. Vengeance for the Abacha family. He believed that was unfair to the Abachas in the OPL 245 deal. Having established what he calls intrigue and vendetta in the first part of the book, part 2, titled A Den of the Famous, is a systematic squaring of those he considers his traducers, namely President Muhammadu Buhari, a friend and defender of the Abacha family, Professor John Padden, author, he says, of the shabby biography of Muhammadu Buhari, Mohammed Sani or Mohammed Abacha, who claims he owns 50% of Malibu, which he did not pay for, and yet wanted a cut from the Malibu windfall. Others, who seem to have been part of the grand conspiracy against Adoke, include Professor Yemi Osinbajo and his lawyer friend, Olabode Johnson, whose firm, and I quote, whose firm and partners were targeting a commission of between 5 and 35%. Mr. Abubakar Malami, Adoke's successor as AGF, UK-based Global Witness, an Italian prosecutor called Fabio Do Pasquale, Header Resource Center, a Nigerian NGO working with Global Witness, Mr. Rislanuddin Mohammed, who lied, Sahara Reporter, which Adoke calls an anything goes website, and Premium Times newspaper, all involved in character assassination and the mudslinging agenda. Chapter 8, titled The Ruthless Enforcer, is a detailed review of the role of the EFCC under Mr. Ibrahim Magu in the author's travails, what he calls the Magu pandemic. One EFCC prosecutor, Mr. Balasanga, is even dismissed as one low-life, miserable person. Adoke does not pull his punches. Large portions of this book must have been written in a fit of anger. Professor Yemi Osinbajo is labeled the conflicted Mr. Clean, that's another quote, who likes to be seen as the epitome of transparency, honesty, and accountability. Abubakar Malami is called a betrayer and a viper. The whole of chapter 10 is devoted to the antics of Malami. Olanrewaju Suraju, Header Resource Center, and Global Witness got their own thrashing in chapter 12, titled The Headless Mob. Fabio Do Pasquale is the Italian jobber whose eventual demotion by Italy's Superior Council of the Judiciary Adoke celebrates, just as he also gloat over Mr. Godwin Emefiele's travails later in the book. Death finally caught up with the hunter, Adoke writes sarcastically. Part 3 is titled Harassed and Embarrassed, 5 chapters in which the reader is taken through the author's detention in Dubai for 35 days, from 12th November 2019 till 19 December 2019, when he decided of his own volition to return to Nigeria, only to be detained for another 55 days in EFCC custody. Part 4, Trials and Triumphs, is a detailed report of the various cases related to OPL 245 in the United States, Italy, the UK, and the pronouncements by the courts in Nigeria. Lawyers, students of case law, prosecutors, and the general reader we'll find a lot that is instructive in this part of the book. The reporting is robust, the documentation is extensive and illuminating about how the path to justice may be taught to us. Justice for the accused, justice for the jury, and justice for society. It is difficult to see, however, how justice has been done to society in the case of OPL 245. Beyond the arrested development of the asset, it is curious, as this author asserts, that OPL 245 litigation was a very lucrative oil block, as lucrative as OPL 245 itself for lawyers and their allies in the Buhari administration. That is a monumental waste of resources. The book is brought to a close with reflections and recollections. Chapter 26 opens with a telling statement. I was discharged and acquitted, but the scars remain. And this is perhaps understandable given the picture of man's wickedness to man that Adoke paints, to rise to an extreme position of being the chief law officer of the Federation, only to be humiliated by, I quote again, a desperate, vicious, and ruthless government, Adoke's description of Buhari's government. There are four subtexts running through the entire book. The first is how the institutions of state, such as the EFCC and the judiciary, can be used to pursue unmitigated acts of persecution. The second is the fickleness of the human mind and this deep-seated hatred that some gnaws in their minds. The third subtext is the use and abuse of the media. And the fourth is how the treatment that people like Adoke, who serve in government, receive, discourages many other public-minded, public-spirited persons from serving their country. Over 12 years of litigation upon litigation over OPL 245 further raises questions about the quality of leadership in Nigeria. And so Adoke asks, who truly shall change Nigeria between Adoke and Buhari? Readers of this book may well find answers within its pages. The book is dedicated to all who stood by me when I was going through the darkest era of my life. My vindication is a victory for those who gave me a benefit of the doubt. This will include Ibrahim Lamode, chairman of the EFCC, who was relieved of his position a day after he insisted that Adoke was innocent. President Jonathan, whom Adoke describes as a super respecter of the law. Late Malam Abba Kyari, Chief of Staff to Buhari, Ambassador Baba Kamara, the legal team led by Chief Akanu Agabi, SAN, as well as true friends and relatives. The book ends on a note of thanksgiving as the author chooses to pray. I quote, "The Almighty, to whom all glory belongs, will reward every single person who stood by me." End of quote. The boy from Nagazi, Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN, CFR, lawyer, now author and public intellectual, should find some healing for his scars if his story, as told here, is warmly received by those to whom it may concern. The book has strong merit. Thank you.
Very intellectually delivered and scholarly done. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Reuben Abati. One more round of applause for him. Recall that he was also a special advisor to the erstwhile President Goodluck Jonathan, on media and publicity. So he actually was in the forefront of these as well. But of course, this seminal work, authored by none other than Mohammed Bello Adoke, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, CFR, former Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, under the administration of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is more than just a book. It is a courageous insider's account. It is audacious. It is a revelation, a testament to the complexities and controversies, and of course constitutional challenges surrounding one of Nigeria's most talked about oil block transactions. Mr. Adoke, as we all know, is a man of extraordinary legal insight and courage, and has given us not just a personal reflection, but a detailed legal and political narrative that confronts perceptions with facts and speculation with documentation. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I'd like to invite very quickly to also do us the honor of being the very first person saddled with the responsibility of presenting this book publicly. I'd like to invite the very great engineer who has turned Ibadan and Oyo State indeed around, His Excellency Engineer Seyi Makinde, the Executive Governor of Oyo State, who is not only a seasoned engineer, but a successful entrepreneur. He is a governor who has also distinguished himself as a beacon of progressive leadership, good governance, and people-centered policies. Please join me in welcoming the Governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Engineer Seyi Makinde. That applause for him can come even louder and better. Your Excellency, sir.
Sorry, I need a copy of the book. Well, while they are bringing the copy of the book, let me also stand on the already established protocol, but I cannot do without specially recognizing my boss, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON. Because for governors, we report to the Vice President, we go to the National Economic Council, and the VP is the chairman. We didn't consult one another, but if you look at my boss and myself, we wore the same thing, from head to toe, brown. That is how we're feeling today. And let me also specially recognize the former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, because I saw everybody was recognized, but it was missed out. Oh, it was recognized, okay. Maybe I wasn't paying attention. Well, before I go into presenting the book, they've said so many things about the author, Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN. I call him Malam B. But one thing he has done today, he has brought together inside this all APCO, PDPO, Coalition, NMPPO. So this is a good way to start elite consensus for the future of Nigeria. So I consider it a privilege and responsibility to stand here today as a chief presenter of a book that revisits one of the most scrutinized transactions in Nigeria's petroleum history. OPL 245, inside story of the $1.3 billion Nigerian oil block. That's a lot of money, $1.3 billion. So I'm not surprised that it generated a lot of interest. Well, this book, to me, is not simply a retrospective on a deal. It is a personal testimony from someone who held public trust and bore institutional responsibility during a turbulent and legally fraught moment in our nation's oil and gas sector. Well, we live in a country where records are sparse, where narratives are quickly lost in headlines, and where legal complexities is often weaponized. In this context, Malam B's decision to document his side of the story is not just brave, it is necessary. Because history must not only be recorded, it must also be contested, clarified, and understood. Even a Bible proverb says, the first to present his case seems right until someone comes forward and cross-examines him. I have this Baba that used to play golf with me. And then when I get the first T-shirt right, he will say, not be him who first called police, that is the win case. So as someone who spent the better part of 2 decades in Nigeria's oil and gas sector, including my time as a group managing director of Macon Group, I understand the weight and nuances that come with managing high-value projects, navigating state regulations, and aligning local and international interest. Because when you wonder sometimes, why are people, because they had cases in Milan, in London, all over the world. Yeah, it's because when you have big money, you have interest from all over the world. Yet what happened with OPL 245 was on a different scale. That block had an estimated 9 billion barrels of crude, which is enough to shift national GDP outlook. If my memory serves me right, at Macon, they gave us a project, and I had then a 2x4 office, and we had to construct a 150 million SCOF per day gas plant. The project was almost $250 million. And people looked at me and said, look, in this your 2x4 office, you're doing a deal almost $250 million. And I said, in electricity terms, because at that time Nigeria was generating about 3,000 megawatts of electricity. And 150 million SCOF in electricity terms will give you about 600 megawatts, which is 20% of the national capacity. So that is the kind of thing that you have in the oil and gas industry, and that is what this OPL represents. With 9 billion barrels, I mean, it can shift the GDP of Nigeria. So I'm not surprised that it was caught in a web of contested ownership, cross-border litigation, and accusations spanning 3 continents. Up till now, the issue surrounding OPL 245 is still not sorted. So, but this book and the broader discourse it contributes to is not just about the oil block. It is about how Nigeria governs its resources, how decisions made in government echo through generations, and how public officials must balance legal clarity with national interest even when under pressure. It is about the gaps in our institutional frameworks, from discretionary licensing regimes to unclear accountability lines that leave room for international actors to take liberties with our sovereignty and for local actors to act with impunity. It must be said that not everyone will agree with positions taken in this book, nor should they be. But Malambi has done something few in our public space have dared to do: offer his account with names, with dates, context, and consequences, and place it before the court of public opinion, long after courts of law have had their turn. So, thank God my name wasn't mentioned in there. This is how historical narratives are built. We must not be silent about our history, and records must be kept. It is therefore with deep respect for the principle of public accountability and with personal appreciation for the complexity of our oil economy that I officially present to you today OPL 245, inside story of the $1.3 billion Nigerian oil block by Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN. May it spark the reflection, policy reform, and documentation culture that our country so urgently needs. Thank you, and God bless you.
Please, can we appreciate His Excellency the Governor for your state? Thank you very much. We will just arrange our program this way. His Excellency the Vice President, after his speech, will lead members in front here to unveil the book. We'll take the national anthem, and then we'll leave. But before then, we'll have a vote of thanks from the author. But for now, we'll kick off with the Goodwill messages, and we're so we'll be starting the Goodwill messages with the former president of the Senate, a man that is totally committed to the Nigerian project. He loves Nigeria, and he's also on the side of truth. Let me welcome here His Excellency Abubakar Bukola Saraki. Excellency, please.
Your Excellency, Vice President, President Goodluck Jonathan, represented by former Senate President, I am Governor of Oyo State, the author, former Governor of Kano, Kwankwaso, Mayor Lafia, and all other former governors and National Assembly members that are here. Your Excellencies and guests, I just got a few words to say. I think all has been said, but I think there are three things we should all take out from here. One goes back to the fundamental basics of our society, which is the respect of the rule of law. We continue to see it as a continuous impact on every sector. What Mala Adoke has shown here is where the rule of law, he's been a victim of that. And I'm sure not only him, even many of us, me standing here, I'm also one. And I hope that when my book comes out, Sheyi Makinde and I will be able to present that. But we talk about it in light tone. But we thank God that he is here. It could have been a different story. And as he said, there's still scars. You go through it, you get vindicated in court. But there's some scars that live with you. I remember it was a few months ago where I was somewhere and a young person just Googled and listed all the accusations. But where you've been vindicated is so small compared to all the negative stories. And it lives with you many years after. And the sad part about it is that you bargained for this. But you know, we all have young children who didn't bargain for this. They have to carry this burden with them. So I think as a society, honestly, we need to begin to review, these kind of things when we're in power and people are in position of authority. Secondly, is the oil and gas sector. It's OPL 245 today. It's such an important sector in the economy that, as Imakile said, we need to make it more transparent, the processes and which it goes about. Let me salute you for your courage. And I hope that a lot of people would read the book. I'm going to read the book so I can learn what not to say and what to say when I write my book. Thank you so much.
I think we can do better with that round of applause for the President of the Senate, 9th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Your Excellency, our very special guest of honor, very distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. The onus at this point in time rests very solidly on the shoulder of the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Malam Nasir El-Rufai, to please join us here for his goodwill message. Please, can we invite him with a resounding applause, please? And for want of time, I've been asked to plead with other speakers to please keep to just 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Can we please put your hands together one more time for His Excellency?
Thank you, MC. I have to adjust after Sheyi's height. And this podium literally covers most of my height, because some of us are vertically challenged. Your Excellency, the Vice President, Your Excellencies, my colleagues, former governors, including my 70-year-old classmate, Ahmed Muazu. I didn't know you were that much older than me. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to use this opportunity to congratulate my brother, Mohammed Bello Adoke, for his second book. I enjoyed the first book thoroughly, and I look forward to reading the second book. Books like this are necessary, not only to put the record straight, not only to give the opportunity of those persecuted to vent and put things in perspective, but also to encourage a culture of memoir writing in public service. We don't write enough in this country. We don't pass enough of our experiences, both good and bad, to the next generation. So I want to congratulate you for your second effort. I'm working on my own second effort as well. About 12 years ago in this hall, I presented The Accidental Public Servant, which was a record of my experience in public service at the time. which showed how friends abandon you, betray you, how those that you've been good to turn around against you. And everyone told me I made a mistake, that I will never go near public service again. Because in Nigeria, when you are in government, you eat, you keep quiet, and you come back and you remain silent. I don't think I had anything to hide in my public service years. I still don't. And I know AG, that's what I call him, Bello Adoke, has nothing to hide. So you can write a book like that and hold your head high, because you know you did nothing wrong while holding public office. I appeal to those in power today to remember that their turn will come. Our turn always comes, but it goes. I want to congratulate my brother for this. I'm looking forward to reading the book because I really want to understand the role of various actors in this. Because I've had discussions on OPL 245 several times with President Buhari. I had special relationship with him. I had access to him. Everyone knows. And everyone also knows that Mohamed Bello Adoke was one of those that stood and persuaded President Jonathan to actually concede the 2015 election. So, we should actually thank him as the APC government of 2015, not persecute him. So I want to understand, because I've had discussions when this was going on several times with President Buhari, and I did not have the impression that he had any interest in the matter other than allowing due process to proceed. So I want to understand, I want to read it, and I want to learn as well. But my brother, congratulations for an excellent job, and I urge all of us in public service, particularly some of the more experienced people here, Governor Moazu, Senator Kwankwaso, we are waiting for your books. No, seriously, because not only those of us that are slightly younger than you and less experienced would learn, but also the next generation will also learn a lot. Kayode Fayemi, you too, you must write your own book. And who else? I'm looking and looking. But congratulations, my brother. More grace to your elbow. And may Allah heal your scars. I know what you mean. We all went through versions of that. Thank you all for coming, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Let's appreciate him, the former governor of Kaduna State, Alam Nasir El-Rufai. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, let me invite here a professor of law and a senior advocate of Nigeria, Professor D.G. Adekunle, who will also be stepping forward to say his own. Prof. Okay. Let's clear the path for him as he steps off here. And like my brother Andy Gabriel said, we're also still appealing. Let's make it as short as possible. 3 minutes will be good, 2 will be better.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of Nigeria, let me acknowledge protocols already established. Although I had been told that I will be speaking on behalf of former aides
of the author. I was actually not quite prepared when my name was called, because I looked around and I said, it will probably not be possible to speak looking at the array of guests and VIPs here. It's an honor and privilege to stand before you today to speak on behalf of those of us who, during the author's stint of service as Attorney General of the Federation, served as his aides. We are mentored by a great mind. During the time we served, he treated us as equals. We enjoyed the debates with him, the discussions before he put his red pen to paper. Momentous decisions that he had to take, he would bounce ideas with us. We will discuss thoroughly. But one thing, you go out after any session with Oga, you profit by his wisdom. Because some of us come to the table with all kinds of ideas, professor, academics, idealists, patriots. But at the end of the day, he says the most paramount thing is the interest of Nigeria. Sometimes you leave the table or his room wondering whether law, as you read it in law school, should not have been twined with politics and governance. Because at the end of the day, when you see the way he carried on in office, you see the sagacity at play and the way in which he combined love for the country and respect for his boss, the president, and also skill in the job that he has done, that he's doing. I, like many, have not read this book. I knew instinctively when it came out that it was therapeutic, as the reviewer said. And there is no doubt that our dear Oga, Malam Bello Adoke, went through a lot of stress, of being hounded, and indeed, many, many times, we just felt for him. But even during his travels, he never lost touch with us. He will send messages to encourage us and tell us to hold our head high. We thank you, sir, for the courage you gave us. We thank you for your account of this very controversial transaction and the succeeding actions that governments and private persons took. As many have said here, the book not only talks about OPL, but it also talks about our governance style in the country. A style that has permeated even down to all areas of public offices. A chief executive leaves, his or her successor comes, and the hounding begins. Governance is left aside, and everybody just focuses on what did the last person do and what did he not do. Your Excellency, the former governor of Kaduna State, some of us hear you loudly. My own book is coming too. It was James Baldwin who said, "You think your pain and your heartbreak are unprecedented, but you just wait and read about what others have faced. And you will know that you are connected with many people who were alive, but who never had the opportunity to tell their story. We want to appreciate you. And when I say we, I'm referring to Professor Peter Akpe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, I'm referring to Mrs. Beatrice Jediagba, Solicitor General of the Federation and Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Justice. I'm referring to Mr. Pius Oti, a retired director, Federal Ministry of Justice, Mr. Bola Odugbesan, also a director in the Ministry of Justice. I'm referring to Dr. Ogunleye, who also is an associate professor in the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. I'm referring to also Bemangwe, former Executive Secretary of the Human Rights Commission. I'm referring to Juliet Sibekaku, and last but not the least, my humble self. And also Pius Okore, thank you very much. I struggle with that memory. Pius Okore, who is a Deputy Director, Nigeria Law School. We all are grateful to you for what you have done in building us up career-wise, in building us up mentally and psychologically. I want to assure you that the values you instilled on us will be put to good use. Thank you very much. Now, recently, the FIRS boss, I'm told, issued a circular to banks to be on the lookout of anyone who spends more than 5 million within a month. Well, thankfully, what's our modest contribution to these efforts is not up to 5 million. So we are not afraid to say that we want to appreciate the efforts. I underline that, the efforts. We are not appreciating the man. It's just the efforts in writing this book with a token sum of 1 million naira. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leonard Silk, for your kind words. Your Excellency, very special guest of honor, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. For want of time and taking into cognizance the exigencies of your office, we might not be able to take any further goodwill out after this very one that I'm going to invite. I'd like to crave your indulgence to please permit me to invite the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, Chief Uche Naji, to be the one to bring up the rear with goodwill messages at this point. Please can we welcome him to the podium with a round of applause, please.
His Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, and the very many invited guests, former Senate presidents, former governors, serving and non-serving, here present. Please, may I stand on already well-established protocol. It is with great honor and respect that I stand before you to speak. I must first and foremost congratulate the former Attorney General of the Federation, Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, for putting this book together called The Inside Story of $1.3 billion Nigeria oil block. This is not just a book, but a story that set the record straight and history that remains untold. As I was a businessman, I am preview to the true story of this OPL for 245. Coincidentally, my very good friend and a business ally, who is now the DG Energy Commissioner of Nigeria, Dr. Mustafa Abdullahi, worked in the defunct DPR under the Lease Administration Department that handles oil lease and oil license. So I must say I am very informed on this OPL saga. With all I know and in view of the court's version, we can only apologize and learn from the mistakes. I have always wondered if you were the Minister of Petroleum that awards oil blocks according to the defunct Petroleum Act or otherwise. Therefore, I must congratulate you, Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, for coming out of this saga victorious. And I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister of Innovation, Science and Technology, and thank you for keeping to time as well. We want to make it very businesslike, and Your Excellency, please, at this juncture, I want to invite the man whose intellectual and audacious thoughts of putting his book together has brought all of us here. The author of this book, a very cerebral legal mind, of very high repute, and who has also defended Nigeria to a very large extent, even saving money for this country as mentioned in the book. I'd like that you please join me in welcoming Mr. Adoke, a man of extraordinary legal insight and courage, who is not just a personal, who has not just given us a personal reflection, but a detailed legal and political insight as to his experience with the OPL 245. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please, for this legal mind, can we please welcome the Leonard Silk with a bigger round of applause as I invite Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, SAN CFR, the author, sir. Before you take the stage, I welcome you, distinguished Senator Ahmed Wadada, Chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts. We welcome you. Thank you. The author, sir.
Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, distinguished Excellencies here, particularly the Chief Presenter and the Chairman of this occasion, President Goodluck Jonathan, ably represented by Chief Pius Anyim Pius, or is it Anyim Pius Anyim, I'm sorry, GCON. Your Excellency, may I crave your indulgence to adopt the existing protocol already established here in order to save time. But in doing so, sir, please permit me to acknowledge the governor of my state, Governor Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, because he was the governor of Kano State when I was practicing law in Kano, and the deputy governor of Kogi State, who is here present, and my big brother, former governor of Kaduna State, His Excellency Nasir El-Rufai, who in my years of exile, sir, was very supportive. Myself and Chief Rotimi Ameji, the former governor of Rivers State. I'm delighted by the honor done me by your esteemed presence at the public presentation of my book titled OPL 245, Inside Story of the 1.3 billion Nigerian oil block. I want to specifically thank the chairman of the occasion, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, GCFR, my boss, whose disposition and leadership qualities enabled me to independently discharge the functions of my office without let or hindrance. I'm indebted to the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, an amiable leader and a gentleman par excellence, for taking time out of his busy schedule to honor me with his esteemed presence. I'm particularly grateful for his courage, encouragement, and soothing words, which are healing balm to the physical and psychological trauma caused by my traducer and the Nigerian state. Permit me, Your Excellency, to inform this audience that after the verdicts by the various courts were over, I opted to go back into exile. In fact, I left. It was to the credit of His Excellency, the Vice President, who called me one day and said, come back to Nigeria. You have to put a closure to this saga. I thank you, Mr. Vice President. I'm also very grateful to the Chief Presenter, His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde, for honoring me by presenting this book to the public. Governor Makinde has repeatedly demonstrated his friendship through his numerous acts of kindness and forbearance. I can attest that through hard work and service to his people, he has risen to the enviable position of a respected political leader and statesman in the Nigerian polity. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my close associates and friends have sought to know my motivation for writing this book, which many have either termed controversial or too revealing by Nigerian standard. While not attempting to review the book, it is important to assure you all that I did not set out to denigrate anyone, but to set the record straight and provide valuable insights into a transaction that was not only carried out in furtherance of the national interest, but also to safeguard Nigeria's economic interests as it relates to the exploitation of our hydrocarbon resources. The Chinese proverb to the effect that the faintest ink is better than the strongest memory aptly reinforced the reliability of written records over human memory. I am therefore not unmindful of the fact that the event would outlive us. Documenting such events as have been done in this book is a more dependable way of preserving such information and effectively shielding it from distortion deliberately or unwittingly. Although I was not a party to the 2006 settlement agreement which preceded my appointment as Attorney General of the Federation of Nigeria and Minister of Justice, my traducers, state and non-state actors alike, ensured that I suffered immense public odium, loss of reputation, earnings, and family life for the role I played in ensuring the implementation of an agreement in 2011, notwithstanding that I was only carrying out the lawful directives of the President in the exercise of his executive powers under the Constitution. The book has revealed the damaging role of anti-corruption campaigners, local and international, especially when their motives are less than altruistic, laced with unethical conduct and desire to achieve nothing more than to destroy hard-earned reputations. Their use of unethical and illegal tactics, as was done in my case, to satisfy narrow interests and predetermined outcomes must be deprecated. It was during my travail that I learned that public officers with enviable position in government could be persuaded in the national interest to lie on oath to ensure victory in the spurious suit instituted on behalf of the government. I've always believed the public prosecution should be conducted ethically and only when the facts support the charges. The OPL 245 prosecution revealed disturbing incidents of connivance, conspiracy to pervert the course of justice, and downright suppression of exculpating evidence to secure a conviction at all costs. The amount of public funds expended on this malicious prosecution and ill-motivated civil suits is astounding. Nigerian taxpayers should not be made to carry such a needless burden. There must be consequences for ill-conceived and malicious prosecutions conducted at public expense. The Milan prosecutor in Italy were found guilty of suppressing exculpatory evidence. The judicial system punished their unethical conduct with 8 months imprisonment. On the contrary, in Nigeria, the investigators and prosecutors of the EFCC, in the bid to satisfy their paymasters, equally disregarded subsisting court orders, suppressed evidence, and intimidated witnesses to lie on oath in a desperate effort to try to secure a conviction. Regrettably, nothing has happened to them. We must restore the good old tradition and standards of prosecution based on evidence. No matter the pressure that is brought to bear on them, prosecutors must never be persecutors. In all of this, my belief in the Nigerian project remains unshakable. Public office is a public trust for which we remain accountable, not only to our maker, but also to the people. It is said that when you fall into hard times, that is when you know your true friends. I was lucky to have friends that I could lean on, even in those difficult years in exile. While for want of time, I cannot begin to call all of them by name, I must acknowledge His Excellency Ahmed Usman Ododo, Governor of Kogi State, for his brotherly love and support. I must also acknowledge His Excellency Alhaji Ahmed Ademu Mazu in my years in exile. I thank him very much for his friendship as well. Permit me, Your Excellency, to recognize His Excellency Rotimi Chubeke Amechi for his friendship and support, particularly his various visits to me while I was in Ghana. Same equally goes for my friend, His Excellency SN1 Nation Wike, CON, the current Minister of FCT, who stood by me when I came back from exile and gave me all the necessary support. I remain grateful. I also acknowledge the friendship and support of His Excellency Governor Nasiru El Rufai, former Governor of Kaduna State, Chief Ben Peters, Chairman Aitel Group, Prince Godi Jadi Abba, who stood for over 3 hours waiting to see me when I was detained by the EFCC, and he was refused access to me, yet he was a minister in the government of the Buhari government at that time. My brother, my friend of 45 years, Dr. Didi Dodo, OFR, SAN, a culprit who persuaded me into writing this book, so if there's any backlash, we have to share it together. My brother, Professor Fibian Ajogu, who was always with me in Ghana as well, giving me all the necessary moral support and giving me literatures, books to read to occupy my time. And of course, my brother, Mahesh Vaswani, who ensured that throughout my stay in Ghana and Dubai, I was comfortable. I remain grateful. Let me also thank Mr. Roland Ewubare, the current COO of NNPC, Mr. Simon Kolawole, founder of the Cable, His Excellency Alhaji Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, like I've said earlier on, who visited me more than twice in Ghana and who, upon my return, did everything possible also to support me, to encourage me, and to get reintegrated back to the country. I thank you, Your Excellency. I want to thank my sister, Hadiza Bala Usman, who is currently a special advisor in this government, who has been also very supportive. We share literatures together, we share our experiences together, and I'm grateful for your sisterly love and affection. Thank you. Finally, Your Excellency, I'm grateful to the Almighty Allah for keeping me alive to witness this day. My profound gratitude goes to my family, particularly my wife Saditu, who is unavoidably absent today because she lost an uncle of hers. My children and siblings, particularly Husna Bello, and my brother, Engineer Bashir Bello, and all special assistants and staff who stood by me throughout my ordeal. Permit me to say, Your Excellency, that I've forgiven all those who have hands in my ordeal. With the public presentation of this book, sir, I say boldly and clearly that I admire the courage of Ibrahim Mustafa Magun in coming forward to make up with me, to apologize to me, and to empathize with me for the role each and every one of them played in my travail. I have forgiven him. I see him as a friend, and I hope he will take steps to also make up with others that may have been victims of his activities in office. May God bless you all. Thank you very much.
He deserves a standing ovation. Thank you very much. And the beauty of it is that he said he has forgiven everybody. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. Thank you. Your Excellencies, let's be seated, please. Thank you. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while the author was opening his address, he referred to the Vice President as an amiable leader. And I totally agree. In my more than 2 years of interaction with him at events and across the nation, I find him as a leader who guides, a leader who inspires, a leader who empowers others. He's a man who can make you translate reality to vision. And he's also a man who can foster a positive environment for growth. I welcome here the Vice President, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON.
Kindly, please sit down, please. There is a prophetic hadith that says, the bravest amongst men is he who forgives, not the one who fights with a furious elephant. I want to commend you for the courage to forgive all those who had offended you in the course of your public duties. And Martin Luther King said, the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands at moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. In the last 4 years of the Jonathan administration, I was the most demonized person. I was the public enemy number one. And there are two gentlemen seated here. Certain decisions are taken in a very rare peace cycle. The President, the Vice President, the Senate President, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. At one of such conclaves, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan GCFR, with whom we have shared the sword and have now recalibrated our relationship, was mooting the idea of removing this Borno governor, and Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, had the courage to tell the President that, Your Excellency, you don't have the power to remove an elected councillor. The president was still not convinced. He mooted the idea at the Federal Executive Council. I admire Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke, fundamentally for his courage and for his convictions and for his capacity to stand for what he believes in. He told the then president that, Mr. President, you do not have the power to remove a sitting governor, not even a councillor. They sought for the opinion of another SAN in the cabinet, Kabiru Turaki, who said, I am concurring with the opinion of my senior colleague. That was how the matter was laid to rest, but that was how my relationship with Mr. Bello Adoke and Aminu Waziri Tambuwal became eternally sealed. The former president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and chairman of the occasion, His Excellency Goodluck Ebele Jonathan GCFR, ably represented by the former president of the Senate, Senator Anyim Pius Anyim, GCON. Former Senate President, who is conspicuously absent, he has left since then. My brother, the amiable governor of Oyo State, Engineer Sheyi Makinde, and the deputy governor of Kogi State, Comrade Joel Salifu. You have to be amiable because you are a bloody deputy governor, so. Members of the National Assembly present here, most especially Senator Aliu Ahmed Wadada, Chairman, Senate Committee on Public Accounts, and Senator Kakasha Lawan, who succeeded me as the Senator for Borno Central. The Attorney General of the Federation, ably represented by the Solicitor General and Permanent Secretary of the Ministry, Mrs. Beatrice J.D. Akbar. I prepare to call it Beatrice. This is how we Northerners call the name. Beatrice J.D. Akbar. The Ambassador of Italy to Nigeria, His Excellency Stefano De Leo. The game changer, is he still around? No, the game changer has left. But the infant terrible of the Nigerian Governors Club. Hate him, love him, but you can't ignore him. Nasiru Ahmed El-Rufai, former governor of Kaduna State, and the pious-fitting leader of the Concoursia movement, Dr. Rabiu Musa Konkoso. When are we celebrating your 70th birthday? Because your friend just celebrated his own. My father, Joseph C.D. Baje, the Emir of Lafia. My brother, JFK, John Kawede Payemi, the former governor of Ekiti State. My friend, my brother, the governor of Kwara State, former governor of Kwara State, Abdel Fattah Ahmed. Special advisor to the president on policy coordination, we call her the head girl, Hadiza Bala Usman. Special advisor to the president on general duties, office of the vice president, Dr. Aliu Modibo Umar. The author of the book, former attorney general of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mohammed Bello Adoke, CFR, SAN. Former Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Heads of government agencies and parastatals, J.D. Akbar. I told you I sheikh, a modern sheikh, when I saw you with a turban when I came in. Alhaji Hassan Tukur, a polyglot in his own right. Ndudi Elumelu Mahesh, so many, which reflects the eclectic crowd of friends that Mohamed Bello Adoke maintains. We have PDP. We have new PDP. We have the coalition ably represented by my elder brother, Malam Nasiru Ahmed El-Rufai. We have the NNPP, APC, ably represented by, but this is a reflection, this is a kaleidoscope of colors. What binds us together supersedes whatever that divides us. Former IGP MD Abubakar is a PDP man. So also is Senator. Oh, okay, let me say sympathetic to PDP. We are all one. I have the best of relationship with him, in spite of our minor political differences. And of course, Senator Dagash, I believe you, are you in ADC or APC or PDP? Only God knows where you belong to. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Nigeria has endured the silence of too many who left public service with their stories sealed in the vaults of memory. Our public service is a territory governed by silence. There is silence to preserve relationships. There is silence to protect secrets too delicate to disclose. And there is silence for memories we would rather forget. As a generation of leaders, we must summon the courage to document our journeys. Our host today, my friend, my brother, Mohamed Bello Adoke, is a stranger to neither storytelling nor public scrutiny. He is, first and foremost, a lawyer, and a very prominent erudite lawyer for that matter. His new book, OPL 245, The Inside Story of the 1.3 billion oil block, is a recollection of events that still stir debate. These debates unfold in boardrooms and newsrooms. They echo through political cycles and around dinner tables. In his own words, he was bloodied but unbowed. This is a sentiment familiar to anyone who has walked the corridors of power in this country. So I must say this without equivocation. Each of us who has had the privilege of serving this country owes the people an account of our stewardship. Our stories are not ours alone. They belong to the nation. They belong to history. We must never forget that public service is, in the end, a life lived on the dock in the court of public opinion. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that those named in this book will tell their own side of the story. That indeed is how history finds its balance. Every witness must speak. Every accused person must speak. Every participant must speak. And as they do, we are reminded of a sobering truth. Life itself is a litigation with no end. There is no final adjournment in the pursuit of justice. There is no permanent discharge in the reckoning of history. We have always been summoned, not by a judge, but by conscience and by posterity. This book, therefore, is an access card to the next phase of hearings in the court of public opinion. The pages of this work will inspire debates. They will provoke rebuttals. They will ignite fresh investigations. These conversations will take place in drawing rooms, in lecture halls, and in the columns of tomorrow's newspapers. I believe that Dr. Ruben Abati will feature this book in his next column. But this is the nature of storytelling. It expands the moment it is shared with the public. Those who have walked this path carry scars that do not always show. They bear burdens that do not always make it into official reports. That is why we must commend every attempt to document our stories, not because they are perfect, but because they are necessary. Not because they end the conversation, but because they begin it. The courts may close, the headlines may fade, the official records may be revised, but the conscience of a nation never adjourns. In that eternal courtroom, we are all on trial. Not only for what we did, but for what we dare to remember, for what we dare to reveal, and for what we dare to pass on. As we live here today, we must realize something fundamental. This culture of accounting for our place in history shall remain our solemn pact until we draw our final breath. It is a duty that binds us to one another and to the generations yet unborn. We must continue to honor this calling until we arrive at that ultimate destination where our stories are no longer ours to tell, where our memories yield to eternity, and where judgment is neither appealed nor revised, but sealed forever. Mr. Adoke, thank you for telling your own side of the story. May our nation continue to prosper. May we continue to be united in the cause of this our great nation. Thank you, and may God bless us all.
His Excellency will be stepping down to unveil the book alongside everyone who's on the front row with him. And then they'll all take copies of the book. We'll have a group photograph, and then we'll round up.
Reduce this volume, please, a little bit. Thank you.
Excellency, yes.
The author, yes, we can stand, yes, exactly. Honorable Minister, Deputy Governor, can we come this way, sir? Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency. Yes, sir, this way, sir. Minister J.D. Agbadas, this way, sir. Take a copy. And then Senator Ahmed Ali Wadada, former governor of Gombe State is here. Senator Ibrahim Hassan Dankwambo, the Emir. Do we have a copy of the book H? Then we can stand this way, sir, so that the cameras can capture one and all. Senator Ahmed Wadada, this way, sir. Can we come back a little bit? Honorable Ndudi Elubelu, MD Abubakar, former IGP, Dr. Aisha Chimogu, please give a copy to. Copy. Dr. Achinogo. Yes, ma'am. Copy for you.
Cameraman, are you okay? All right, please, the national anthem, please. Only the first stanza. We'll clear the path and allow His Excellency the Vice President to lead on behalf of my co-anchor, Andy Gabriel. Thank you very much for being here. God bless you.
That's what I wish for you.
Those are live pictures coming in from the nation's capital at the Musa Yar'Adua Conference Center in Abuja. The official launch of OPL 245 is a story of the $1.3 billion Nigerian oil block by Mohammed Bello Adoke, the former Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation under the chairman of the former President Goodluck Jonathan. It was witnessed political bigwigs, including the Vice President of Nigeria, and some of the persons you've been watching. So, but we now revert back to our regular programming in Lagos.
You've been watching a live Channels television event.